in organizations. But first, I want to start with talking about why design sprints are important. And I want to do it in the context of innovation and also product development. And if you think about essentially about the work that product managers have to do, or product people or innovation teams, they need to grow their products. I don't think anyone in this world has a product like, okay, we're just going to let it sit there and that's it. No, probably you wanna grow it. And then when you grow it, there are like a few ways of doing it, right? You need to look for new customer segments, discover them, or new markets, and that entails you doing market research, looking at trends, knowing your customer preferences, right? And then, of course, looking for new customer segments as well. That's one of the things. Also, the other thing that you need to do is constantly come up with new features and enhancements to your products so that it's always up to date. At the same time, you need to make sure that all of these features and new developments align with your overall objectives and business strategy. And then finally, there is another way. It's breaking new ground. That's my personal favorite. And here is all about uncovering new opportunities, leveraging new technologies, like we have now AI, but like what are you going to do with it, and designing for the future. So these are like the things innovation and product people can do. New customer segments, building new stuff for their customers, and breaking new ground. Now, when they're trying to do this, working towards these goals, they act as if the future is predictable. And what do I mean by this? Basically, people, when they're trying to do all of these three things, one or another, or all of them, they start building things based on their previous experience. Hey, I've been in this role in a previous company, and this is something that we've done, and I know it works. So they're just going to build based on that. Most of us do that. Even I do this at the academy, like most of the people do this. But then again, everyone does it. Another thing that you can do is leverage commodities. What do I mean by that? Well, let's suppose you want to build a chatbot on your website, on your platform. You're not going to build it from scratch. You're going to take one that's ready made. So commodities are all of these components or services, third parties that you can easily take and integrate into your product. The only thing is everyone can do that as well. Then another part of this group are doing something that we call fast follow, which essentially is copying your competition. You're looking at your competition, you see what they're doing, and then you're doing the same. A good example here is it comes here from Germany. It's Volt. Basically, they're doing the same thing as the other direct-to-consumer or delivery companies like Lieferando, Uber Eats, Delivery Hero, just that they're doing it much better. So it's the same service, but they have an improved user experience, and they totally conquered the market. So this actually could work. So these are a few strategies that you can follow to grow your product. And there is another one, which I think helps some organization make the difference, and that's reinventing themselves, doing continuous discovery. And that's what very, very few of them do. One good example that I like to give is Museum of the Future. This is a museum in Dubai. I'm not sure if you've been there or seen it, but basically it has a lot of I have a lot of expositions about the future. They're very immersive, technology-based. And if you're trying to go now and enter the museum, book a ticket, you won't be able to because they're sold out until February, I think. I just checked yesterday. So they're still sold out 1 month in advance. So they're as successful as they can be. They cannot sell any more tickets. Yet what they're doing now is they're thinking about what are going to be their next expositions in 2 or 3 years from now. And they're starting now. So that's what I mean about continuous discovery and reinventing yourself. Very few do this. But the future is not predictable. Like if we could predict the future, like we wouldn't be in this webinar in the first place. And teams need a way to see into the future faster. It would be great if that's possible. Not only do they need to go faster in the futures, but they need to go quickly, right? And they need to have some clarity. Why? Because you want to reduce the investment risk into whatever bet you're trying to place. Think of bets as new features, new products that you're trying to release. Also, you want to embrace experimentation, but you don't want to be in a continuous experimenting mode. At one point, you need to start building and delivering. And again, you need to balance delivery and discovery. And at the same time, during all of this time, you need to put the customer at the core. So it's a lot of things to ask. And this is actually where design sprints come into play, because they're a method that can help you go into the future, but like with speed, and also give you that clarity to move forward. So design sprint, that's the method that I'm going to talk about. A little bit about design sprints. We have two words in here. One is design, one is sprint. When we talk about, why am I explaining this? Because there's a lot of pushback even from designers or from like the more tech people. So design is not about what you see on the screen, where you see nice interfaces. In the context of design sprints, design is about how something works. And I like this quote from Steve Jobs. And also the other part of the word sprint, this is not related to Scrum sprints or Agile sprints, but rather is related to speed. So putting those two things together, the design sprint is a rapid problem-solving method. I hope I'm not going too fast with this, but like there's like a lot of content to go over. Anyway, what is a design sprint? I'm not going to go very deep into the process. This is not what this webinar is about, but I just want to give an overview of the basics for those of you who are not familiar with the design sprints. And by the way, you can write in the chat if you're familiar or if you're not familiar with this one, just to get a sense of what the group knows. I'm going to explain the design sprint in a different way, making an analogy with a movie. It's the movie Speed, right? We talk about speed and moving fast, so I think this movie is only fitting. I'm not sure if you've seen this movie. It's pretty old. I think it was released in 1994. But anyway, it's with Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock. Watch it during the weekend if you have not seen it before. But it really helps me explain this process. The design sprint has a few phases. You can see them on the screen: understand, define, sketch, decide, prototype, and test. If you see some resemblance with design thinking, that's not a coincidence. So let's go through all of these phases and see what they're about, as using the movie as our narrative. So in the movie, there's always a plot, and in our case, there was a bump in the bus. So that's what the movie is about. In a very similar way, in a design sprint, you need to solve a big problem. And then first, in the first phase, you need to understand what the problem is about. Once you have done this, you can move on to the next phase to define a goal. In a movie, the goal of the police, of the SWAT team, was to get the people safely off the bus, and of course, without the bus exploding, and the bus would explode if the speed dropped under 50 miles per hour. In a very similar fashion, in a design sprint, the team, once they know the problem that they're facing with, they need to set a goal. What does success look like in the future? That really ensures that they're all aligned around the same goal and they're moving in the same direction. Once we've understood the problem, once we've defined the goal, it's time to come up with solutions. In a movie, you had the police SWAT force, right? Everyone came up with different ideas about how they could save the hostages. They had different plans, but at the end of the day, you can only do one. In a design sprint, you have a cross-functional team. Again, everyone in your design sprint team would sketch. That's why the phase is called sketch. Everyone in the team would sketch their solution to the problem, whether it is like a product or service improvement, whatever it is, they're going to put it on paper individually. So you end up with 7 to 10 different competing ideas about how to solve the problem. As I was saying, you can't do them all. So in the movie, the captain had to decide what to do, and he picked a plan. This is how we're going to save the hostages. In a design sprint, you have someone that's called a decider. Usually it's a senior stakeholder, someone invested with authority, and this person is going to look at all of the solutions, and they're going to decide what to move forward with. So we're at the point where we have decided what are the best ideas, and then in the next phase in a design sprint is prototype. In the movie, the prototype was driving a flatbed trailer close to the bus, and they were trying to get the people off the bus with it. In a design sprint, what you do is spend a day and build a realistic facade of your product, mimicking the real thing as close as you can. Once you have the prototype, you're moving into testing. When you test, though, you need to prioritize, right? Like you can't test with the entire world population. So you need to be very focused on your customer audience. In the movie, they said, okay, we're going to start with the injured person. And this is how they started to test how their solution worked. Well, unfortunately, not always it works perfectly, and you're not going to get the expected result every single time. In this image here, you can see how the test went. Spoiler alert for those of you who have not seen the movie, the hostage dies. So it happens. It's just a movie though, right? But you can learn from it and iterate and do better. And in the movie, they did iterate and they swapped the trailer by another bus, and they saved all of the hostages. In a design sprint, in this testing session, you test your product with 5 of your customer audience, and then in the end, you're going to get some results. So in summary, what is a design sprint? It's a process in which you have a cross-functional team of 7 to 9 to 10 experts from your organizations that are faced with a challenge they need to solve, and they move from that initial challenge to finding a solution in just 4 or 5 days, following the 6 stages that I talked through. How does it work? You need to have a very clear opportunity and the problem. Like, you cannot do a design sprint without being quite clear on the challenge that you're trying to solve. So definitely doesn't work when you're putting together a group of random people, asking them to figure out like what is the biggest problem you need to solve in your organization, and then hoping to have a result. It doesn't work well at all. So what you need to do is make sure that that opportunity is aligned to your business strategy, whatever system you're using. If you're using OKRs, it needs to be aligned with one of the goals and the key results you're trying to achieve, right? So that's the number one condition. And then you need to target a specific audience. What I mean by this is large organizations usually have lots of different customer groups that they're serving. In these sort of workshops, they're trying to boil the ocean and come up with a solution that works for everyone at the same time. Again, it doesn't work well. So you need to prioritize and select which is the target audience for which you're running the sprint, for which you're solving that specific problem. That allows you to have clarity on what you're doing. It allows you to bring in customer insight, and obviously it allows you to find testers that fall into the same group, making the testing relevant, right? So that's number 2. And then number 3 is the team. I talked previously about having random people in this workshop. That's a big no-no. You need to assemble a team that's one cross-functional. So this picture here shows an example of a cross-functional team. So basically people coming from different parts of the organization. And that's one condition. But the other condition is that this team needs to be an expert team. And when I say expert, I mean they need to be able to solve the problem or contribute to solving the problem. This ensures the quality of the end result. So these are like the big 3 things that you need to have in place in order to run a design sprint. Know the challenge, prioritize a customer group, and then make sure you assemble the team. And as you can see, they're quite related, because if you don't know what the challenge is, obviously you won't be able to assemble a team of experts because you don't know what you're solving. If you're not focused on a specific customer group, you won't be able to bring insights, which means your team is going to work with assumptions, making the process less efficient. Right, so everything is related here. So I hope this all makes sense, and that's like all of the presentation that I want to do about the design sprint. In terms of duration, it takes the original process was 5 days. We're doing it in 4 days when we're doing it in person, 5 days remotely. They're actually just the first 2 days are workshop days when you need the entire team together, but then you need to spend the full day on prototyping. So that's day 3. Why? Because you need to come up with a realistic prototype, and then you definitely need 1 day for the testing sessions. But like if your team doesn't have that much time, just like get the core team for the first 2 days. Those are the most important, and then you can work with a more reduced team to build a prototype and do user testing. There's another way of looking at the design sprint, a lot of divergent and convergent activities, right? Basically, when you understand the problem, you're diverging. When you define on a specific goal, you're converging. As you ideate and you get a lot of different ideas on how to solve the problem, you diverge. But then you need to converge again, deciding on the best ones to prototype. When you prototype, you're trying different options, diverging, and then and like including your assumptions. And then when you test, you're finding the answer, so you're converging again. So that's the reason why we have this triple diamond in here. Outcomes, you have a realistic prototype. Unlike many other methods, at the end of this workshop, you have something tangible in your hand, something that you can put in front of your customer, something that you can put in front of your leadership and have like a very good conversation about what to do next, because you also have lots of customer insights, right? Like you've tested this with 5 customers. It's not just a PowerPoint, it's a tangible mock of your product. Speaking about prototypes and realistic prototypes, yes, we do use 1 day. We need 1 day to build them. And nowadays, especially when we're doing sprints on digital products, which is the most of them, we're using AI capabilities through our partner Wizard. And they have this auto designer that's basically text to prototype. So after the workshop, once we have the storyboard, once we have the narrative of the solution, we're just feeding it into the AI. And the AI spits out the finished product. It's not perfect by any means, but then you can work with the AI to refine screen by screen. So this gives prototyping teams a lot of speed, and that's why you can potentially work with a more reduced team during this phase. So check it out. It's free to start using, yeah, it's quite amazing, I would say. So to finish this, end results of design sprint, you have solution. You're validating your solution or invalidating it, which is also a good thing because you're not going to build something that doesn't have potential, right? But in any case, you're going to have clear next step, right? Like you're very confident in what you're going to do next. And with the design sprint, it's almost as if you were looking into the future, right? So this would be the end results here. Good. Now, when to use design sprints? Do we still have time? Yeah, we still have plenty of time. So when to use design sprints, and again, I want to put it in the context of product development because this is what most of you are doing. This is the context in which even a lot of innovation teams are working, growing and developing products. And this is a map of a product delivery development process, starting with the goal setting and planning, defining a product roadmap, and then moving into delivery. So that's a big overview. I'm going to zoom in into different areas so we can talk a little bit more about that. Now, one place where you can use design sprints and problem framing is when you're defining the product roadmap. I mentioned like the 3 things that you're doing when you're building new features, right? You can build based on previous experience. You can fast follow. So those 2 avenues are quite clear for everyone. You can use commodities as well. But sometimes when you're trying to reinvent, you can get stuck because you don't know what to do. And at that point, you can run a problem framing workshop with relevant key stakeholders to define some areas of opportunity. And then with design sprints, you can quickly go through prototypes and test them with your customers and see what your feature should be about. Right, so that's one instance in which we can use this method. as you're defining the product roadmap, you're going to get more confidence into what you're going to send to development. Now, a lot of teams are already in delivery mode. So you can still use your design sprints. They're not as effective because at this point, teams like designers, developers, people, product managers, right? People building the products, they already have like so many methods. You can still use the design sprint workshop to accelerate ideation, for example, to quickly align your designers with your developers, with your business teams about like what the feature should be, and just like come up with faster ideas. And here also, I would advise you running shorter sprints, like maybe 1 or 2 days on very, very narrow scoped features. Now, you can do it there as well, not as much impact. But talking about impact and making a bigger impact, you need to go upstream, where we at the strategy, where the strategy happens, at the goal setting phase. And usually a lot of the requests for product and innovation teams come from the business, like we want to build this. Just recently, I talked with an innovation manager, and she's leading the digital innovation group inside the very large organization. And she told me, like, John, I got from the business, they came to me and said, we need to build a chatbot, like literally a chatbot. And then I was like, but didn't you try to push back on it, maybe run a problem framing to get to the bottom of this, to understand what problem you're trying to solve with the chatbot, what it is for? And she said, like, no, I could not do it because I didn't only got the request to build a chatbot. The chatbot came with a business case attached to it. And some people made promises based on some fictional numbers attached to that business case. And then the only option they had at that point as a digital innovation team was to build the best, to make the best of it, right? So that's what they were trying to do. But imagine you're using these methods like problem framing and design sprints at this level with your business stakeholders. Instead of writing a business case that's totally fantasy, right? Like you would run a problem framing workshop that's fed with research, with market trends, with customer insights. You put that in front of your relevant stakeholders, and they can make more informed decision in their strategy and come up with some opportunities. And then you validate those opportunities by running some design sprints. So in the end, you're not going to end up with some business cases, but like with some validated prototypes that you can then transition to your product roadmaps. So this is what was like the most value. Also, this is the hardest thing to do. I know I'm advising you to do this, but it's not so easy to do this. So this is what design sprints are about, a very powerful and effective problem-solving process. These are the phases that we talked about. And in only 4 days, your team can move from a problem to a solution and then see if those solutions work or not, whether it needs rethinking or refining. Very, very valuable. It's like an oracle you could see in the future. That's without wasting time, right, in endless meeting. It also eliminates the fear of investing into something new and risky. Oh, we should be building this. We don't know if it's going to work. Let's build it and we're going to see. Now, you're going to see very, very quickly. So that's going to save you lots of money in the process. But, and this is a very big but, I think we should make it bigger in this presentation. The design sprints are a problem-solving method. They're not going to tell you if you're focusing on the right problem in the first place. And this is where problem framing comes into play. And that's a method that we developed because we needed it. We initially started running design sprints, and at one point we hit a wall because design sprints were not working in large organizations as they were supposed to. Why? Because in large organizations you have very challenging problems, if I may call them. It's very complex. So you have lots of different stakeholders, everyone with their own agenda. So it's very hard to know the one problem you need to fix with a design sprint. So this is where problem framing comes into place. It's a more strategic type of workshop that helps business stakeholders, decision makers make informed decisions based on data and customer insights. So that's kind of what the recipe is about. That's something that we launched at Google in San Francisco in 2018. We couldn't teach Google design sprints because they invented design sprints.
Although we tried.
Although I tried, they said, no, we're quite good at design sprint. Thank you, John. But they were quite happy to learn about problem framing because that was an area where their teams needed upskilling as well. And this method can be used by any sort of team. Innovation teams to discover new opportunities, product teams, again, to define areas of growth for their product, business team to improve processes as well. So it's a very, very powerful method. Also recipe like design sprints. So our approach is based on these two methods, problem framing and design sprints. Which are very practical, both of them. And we like to call this approach like practical design thinking at the end of the day, because on one side we have problem definition, on the other side we have solution validation. So we cover the entire cycle. Good. So I hope it's more clear what our approach is and how we do things. And now finally, I want to talk about the different scenarios in which you can use problem framing and design sprints. Basically, they're building blocks to each of these different contexts in which you can use them inside organizations. I'll start with the first one, product development, just because we discussed it previously in this webinar. But usually when organizations do product development, it looks something like this. There is lots of different ideas that come from customers. Most of the times they come from business as directives. Sometimes teams have those ideas, right? They get into a product roadmap, and then they get turned into stories, and then turned into sprints, and teams build them in weekly or bi-weekly iterations, and then they deliver something at the end of it. And hopefully it's something that works well. All of this cycle is quite expensive and resource intensive, because here you have all of your teams working, your product managers, your designers, your developers, business, like everyone is involved in this delivery. So if you don't have the right idea to start with, you can't have a good result, and that produces a lot of waste. Now, how they say, garbage in, garbage out. So you can make the cycle as efficient as you want. If the what you feed into it is not good, you cannot expect to have a very good result. So this is where design sprints help, because they help you validate your ideas before sending them into this machine. But still, design sprints are not enough, because they can help you validate solutions, but they're not going to tell you if you're focusing on the right problems. And then moving more upstream, you have problem framing, which is basically your problem validation. So the end-to-end cycle looks something like this. You have problem framing, which is strategic. You involve your business stakeholders in it. You define problems that are valuable for both the business and also the customer. So you make sure that they also answer a customer problem. Once you have defined those opportunities with the right stakeholders, then you get your subject matter experts in a design sprint to quickly validate solutions. Again, you'd be working with cross-functional teams. That doesn't really happen when you're doing the agile product development, where everyone works in silos. And once you have confidence on what the solutions are, only then you send them to development. So basically, it's a way to de-risk building products, right? Problem framing de-risks your design sprints de-risk your agile product development, saving you money along this path. Good, so that was product development. You can also use problem framing and design sprints as building blocks for your innovation funnel or innovation framework. So this is how it looks like, right? In every organization, probably you have tons of different ideas of what you could be doing, what new products or business models you should launch. But like, how do you know which ones are good? And in the first place, not all of them align with your business strategy or goals. And this is where you can use problem framing. Out of the many different ideas that fill your pipeline, you can use problem framing to filter them out, to make sure you only keep those which are relevant for your business and the future of your business. And then with design sprints, your innovation team can engage experts from across the organization and very quickly validate those ideas by running experiments and test all of these hypotheses. So you end up with validated prototypes, which you can then turn into a business model and then build through a venture building program inside your organization. So that's in short the innovation funnel. Innovation hackathon. This is where I'm going to spend a little bit more time. It's something that we really like. When we talk with innovation managers, generally they have two big objectives. I mean, they have more objectives, but two big objectives are one, let's build the next generation of products and services and launch our next unicorn. So that's one of that. And the other one is we want to be a catalyst. We want to spark a culture of innovation in our organization. How do we do that? And this is where these innovation hackathons are very useful. Now, when we talk about hackathons, as popular as they are, many times they're not that useful. Actually, many times they can be a complete waste because nothing that happens in that hackathon gets followed through or like built after it. And that's something that we changed. And this is what our approach is about. We start with problem framing, and we're finding sponsors, business stakeholders. We're engaging them in this problem framing workshop to define some challenges that are relevant to the business. So we end up with about 3-5 challenges that the business is really interested in. And then once we have those challenges, that's when we put together the teams, because we have the challenges, we open them up to the entire staff and say like, hey, we're organizing a hackathon. These are the 3 challenges that we're going to do. And then people sign up based on their interest and connection to the challenge. That automatically increases the quality of the end result, because people would work on things that they feel connected to and they have some expertise. Yeah, or they have expertise. Unlike usual hackathons where you have hackers, yes, I'm going to talk about it. But like usual hackathons, many times teams decide ad hoc what the challenge should be, and sometimes they might have an idea about a better coffee machine for the office, which doesn't really make much sense, right? The other thing with this hackathon that we're doing is it's based on design sprints. These are cross-functional teams, so it's not open only to, how Dana said, hackers, meaning tech-enabled people like developers or anyone who has like a skill like this, but they're open to everyone. And they're going to work on those challenging following a compressed design sprint process that takes only 2 days. So we can have cross-functional teams working still on relevant challenges for the business. And at the end of it, they're going to have a prototype that also in this hackathon, we bring in customers so they can test their prototype with customers. Since we have AI prototyping, like 2 days is totally feasible, so you don't need to take people too much of work. And then some of these prototypes get into execution. That was the case with one of the hackathons we ran last year. Basically, we ran it with a manufacturing company. Words like design thinking, design sprints, agile, innovation were completely alien to them. They did such a hackathon, and one of the prototypes was a very boring improvement of a factory production line. But as boring as it was, it saved them 20 million a year. So it works, right? So this is why these hackathons are very, very good. Plus, all of your employees are going to be exposed to these methods. They're going to experience them. And then also the sponsors will see value because you end up with those tangible customer tested prototypes. All right. We have, if you look on our website, on our blog, you're going to see at least 2 case studies. One is with a Turner construction company, one of the largest construction companies in the US. They're building airports, skyscrapers, things like this. So they're using this approach for their innovation days. And the other one was SAP, the software company. We've done a similar engagement with them for over 2 years, running remote hackathons during the pandemic with SAP developers and designers. There's 2 webinars, so you can really learn about how they're doing it, how it works, and the type of results they got. Good. Innovation Accelerator, that's another one, but basically, if you have, it's about helping product and innovation team get into a cadence, into a rhythm of developing customer-centric products. And this is basically the framework: explore, experiment, exploit. Explore, you have problem framing, you gather your key decision makers in problem framing and decide like what are the big priorities for each of the quarters. And then because your teams already, and then your teams are going to run experiments, basically design sprints on those priorities each quarter. So that's what I'm talking about, having a cadence. Each quarter, we're going to run a design sprint on one of our top priorities. And then at the end of it, some of those experiments probably are going to work if you do enough of them and you have your cadence. So you're going to end up by handing them over to production teams and work on them. But this is all about having this cadence. That's all what this Innovation Accelerator is about. And design sprints and problem framing provide a very good framework to do that. New ventures, lots of organizations have venture building arms. It's about coming up with whether internal startups or coming up with new products. With problem framing, again, you can explore a lot, finding that opportunity, finding the problem, the customer audience that you want to focus on. And then with design sprints, you can do several design sprints until you reach your product market fit. And then that's something you turn into a business model and you start building with your team. It's a very similar way for external partnerships when organizations try to partner with each other to come up with a joint venture. Sometimes because they're so large, bureaucracy and the processes that they have get in their way, and it's quite difficult for them to do these partnerships. As you can see here is an example of how a partnership would look like, from identifying an opportunity to qualifying partners to forming an alliance. Like, yeah, it just takes too long. You can shortcut that with problem framing and design sprints. Problem framing, you can get stakeholders from both of the organizations, and together they can define mutually interesting problems. And then with design sprints, again, joint teams from each organizations can work to come up with a new concept and test it with the market, see if it has validation, and then both organizations can invest and build the product. Second last one is process optimization. Also is something that can be used for digital transformation as well when you're trying to improve processes, right? But in order to improve a process and do digital transformation, you need to understand what the process is about, and that's what we do at this stage. And with problem framing, we're pinpointing to bottlenecks in the process. We're looking at what's slow, what's broken, what takes too long. So we're identifying those areas of opportunities. And then with design sprints, basically, we're finding solutions. Good. And the last one, this is a surprise. For lack of a better name, we have it Collaboration Booster. Maybe we're going to find out a better name. But a design sprint is a 4 or 5 day process. And I think I saw in the chat a questions like, how do you push back on this timeline? Not everyone has 4 or 5 days. But the thing is, the design sprint is made out of lots of different activities, which can form individual workshops that can really improve collaboration. So, for example, you can take out the design sprint method and run a 2-hour customer empathy workshop. You can run a goal setting workshop that's only 2 hours, or your team is blocked. You can run a 1-hour ideation workshop. Same with prototyping. So you can take these activities and combine them in different ways to come up with workshops for different type of challenges. So the benefits of a design sprint extend beyond just running a design sprint, something that you can then use in your day-to-day work with your teams. So that's the collaboration booster. So this would be the 8 scenarios in which problem framing and design sprints can be used inside the organizations. And I have some conclusions here, right? Results after running these projects. With problem framing, identify key opportunities in your business. You have your stakeholders in alignment, and usually this is one of the most difficult things to do without them wasting time, energy in endless meeting, which is the default, right? This is how they make decisions. You get results in just 4 days. I know I said there 4 days. There is a little bit of groundwork before, but like the workshops take 4 days. You end up with tangible prototypes, user feedback, and clarity on your next steps without the risk associated with building the wrong things. And the other thing is your employees will gain a lot of skills by practicing this method. Again, a design sprint is not just a process. They're not just going to learn the design sprint process, but also user mapping, ideation, how to evaluate ideas, decision-making techniques, prototyping, user research, user testing. So all of these are built into problem framing and design sprints. So yeah, think about yourself also. Where could you plug and play these methods in your organizations? Because you do have a few options here.
So feel free to fill in this last poll, asking you exactly that. Where do you see design sprints and problem framing fit into your organization? And I already see some answers over there.
Oh, surprising! In your process optimization has lots of votes. Okay, perfect. Also, I want to mention we started writing a newsletter this year. Already sent 2 editions out. It's called Sprint Forward. We're going to talk a lot about innovation methods, frameworks, also design sprints and problem framings. It's something we're going to do every week, publishing it on LinkedIn under our company profile, Design Sprint Academy. So if you follow Design Sprint Academy, you're going to get this weekly newsletter, or you can use the web version at this link here. So it's going to be weekly, and tomorrow we're going to have another issue as well. And I think we're done. We're done, yeah? Okay, so we do have some questions.
So I'm just looking at the poll right now. So I think the majority is still for the product development side. If you haven't voted, feel free to vote. I'm also curious. Again, if you see other ways to, or other scenarios where design sprints.
Let us know, yes.
Yeah, let us know. Maybe those were not all good. If you have questions, now's the time to ask.
Now's the time. We still have about 15 minutes.
There was like this mention about an example of successful invalidation of a design sprint, and I thought about it, but John, this was your screen. I'm trying to
I've done so many.
If you remember about it.
Yes, I do remember.
I think it's a good example because it was something about Better Me.
Yes, yes. So this is a big brand. I cannot tell their name. Everyone knows it though. And don't try to guess it because I'm not going to give you enough clues. But the thing is, they did organize a design sprint. They did invest a significant amount of money into it. And the big problem there was the lack of the challenge definition. And we started the design sprint and with the goal of coming up with a new service or a new line of products that they were not into, but they wanted to leverage the global footprint of this company and leverage their partnerships. So like we can go into any space that we want to go in. We just need to figure out what it is, and they use the design sprint for that. But it wasn't very, very clear. And on top of that, we had a senior VP in this company coming into the workshop, and he said like to the team, you have a very important job. You're going to future-proof our company. and that was a little bit too much, right? Like we're talking about an iconic brand, and asking this to to a group of product managers was above their rank, to put it this way. So yeah, that led to very vague solutions. We did come up with a solution in the end because the process forces you towards a solution, but then it totally failed in testing, and then this project did not move forward. So I would say that was a very successful invalidation because the topic was not well defined. That's what the design sprint told them. Like, you need to spend more time defining on what your goal is and what you're trying to achieve, not just throw things out there hoping they're going to stick. So that's one example that that I have, and we kind of knew going into it, but yeah. What else do we have?
Focus on innovation on AI. How might problem framing and design sprints apply this challenge?
They're perfect for this challenge. Because what I'm seeing now is a lot of organizations, startups, people are using AI, and they're starting from the technology and how they're using it. They're taking some things that already work and they're trying to make them a little bit better with AI. And here, let's think about, okay, it helps you write an email or a post, generating images, like all of these things that we're already doing quite well. But like we're not seeing anything transformative at the moment. So that's where problem framing can help a lot, because you can use problem framing to look at how you're doing things currently, really identifying what could be done better, what doesn't work, what's not optimal, and basically define your opportunities. And then once you have that, right, it's like, okay, this is our opportunity. Let's try to do this in a very different way using AI, because AI also should be about this, like, let's do things in a better, different way. Then you can put together a cross-functional team in a design sprint and come up with a solution for this. We have a webinar about AI design sprints, but like in very short, it would be very important to have both people who know the business and the customers, but I would say half of the team need to be AI experts, because otherwise you won't be able to come up with an AI solutions. So that's where it can help. Problem framing to do AI opportunity mapping, and then with design sprints to come up with AI solutions and prototypes.
Because the biggest question is, will people use it? Not
Yeah.
what AI solution you bring to the table, people will have to use it. So
you still need to start with the people. You cannot start with the AI. And you have two groups. You have the product people, you have the business people, right? It's like, oh, we need to do something with the AI, and they don't have any sort of idea about how it works, except for typing into ChatGPT, which everyone knows, right? So they don't know the potential of AI. On the other hand, you do have the deep AI experts, but they're not very familiar with the business use cases, so they don't know what problems they could be solving with AI. So you need to find a way to bring these two groups together. This is what the design sprint does really, really well. They were created for smaller organizations. I mean, the design sprint was made popular by Jake Knapp, who worked in Google Ventures, that's startups. It's very easy to put in small organizations, because small organizations usually only have one or two, or maybe let's say just a handful of problems. So it's really easy to pick a challenge where to apply the design sprint. You have easier access to all of the experts. You have fewer people. It's easier to get their buy-in and get them to work together. So yeah, it works. Not so many stakeholders, so it's easier to set up, easier to focus, easier to access the customer. So in many regards, it's easier to do it in smaller companies. That's where we started design sprints. When we started design sprints, we were running a software company working mostly with small organization. We used design sprints as a way to kick off our projects. And it was quite easy. We're building apps, websites, not a big problem. As we started doing them in larger organizations, that's when we ran into the problems, because all of a sudden, too many stakeholders, problems were not clear, no access to customers, especially when you're working in B2B context. So yeah.
People cannot hear me. So another question is, again, in the startup environment, where the challenge is to get the leadership buy-in. So even if it's a startup and it's small, how do you get the leadership buy-in? Directly to design sprints, I would say no, it's very hard. That's why you need to start where they are. Problem framing, it's a way of alignment. So any stakeholders who understand that whatever you're going to do, it's going to solve their priority, their number one problem, they are going to help you. But they need to see that they need to see that what you're going to do for 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, no matter with all the resource, or it doesn't matter with what, they need to see that it's about something that they really care about and they want to see solved.
So, and the problem framing is something you can run in 2 hours, in 4 hours, in 1 day. So it's not such a big ask. They're doing meetings anyway. So imagine this scenario. You organize a problem framing workshop, let's say 2 hours with your leadership. After these 2 hours, there's clarity on what the problem is that they want to solve, right? And then also at the end of these 2 hours, you're going to tell them, good, I understand your problem. In 4 days, I'm going to show you the solution, and I'm going to show you the product and what the clients think of it. Do you think they're going to say no to that? So try it.
Another mention I want to make about design sprints, you don't have to use them for everything. So it's not like you have a problem now, I need 4 days to run a design sprint. Your challenge needs to be big enough and complex enough. It needs for you to say, we haven't found a solution yet. We looked everywhere. Nothing has been done. The only way we can find out if our idea works or our concept works, if we experiment. That's the only way we get an answer. So it really has to be high stakes, because otherwise it's not worth it. There are other tools and methods for you to validate an assumption. You can simply go and do interviews. You can simply go talk directly with customers. You can do like pen and paper prototypes. So there are easier ways to get to the same answer. But if you tried everything and nothing works, then it's like a time for a design sprint.
Good. I think we have time for one more question. I'd like to know more about how do you frame the problem with real life examples. Sometimes it is tough to know if we're picking the right problem. I mean, our real life examples is something we do present in our training programs. It's our case studies. I'm not saying it's the absolute truth, but it's our work to still give you an answer. Problem framing, it's a process. We're basing this process on real data and real research. So before such a session, we would spend quite significant time looking at customer research, trying to extract insights and putting them in a format that the leadership and the stakeholders can interact with it. Think about it this way. Think that your customer data, research, everything is like a big Lego game. Lego or puzzle. It's like a big puzzle. It's like a big puzzle, right? So we're looking at all of these puzzles. We're trying to put it together, make sure that we have all of the pieces. And like once we're sure of that, like we're dismantling the puzzles again. And in the workshop, we're giving the pieces back to our stakeholders, asking them to put it back on. And in the process of doing that, they learn about their customers, about their problems. They get to understand those insights, which helps them make better and informed decision. The alternative, which I'm seeing in most of the workshops or most of these meetings, is I have someone presenting a PowerPoint of user research on the screen. It's 50 slides. After 15 minutes, people probably retain 10% of that, if that. So that's one way of us doing it. Are we 100% confident? I don't think you ever get to that point, but it's where our stakeholders are reasonably confident once they get to interact with the customer data and with their own business data and make those decisions. All right, then. So I think this is it. We're going to do hopefully more webinars this year. Yes, we're going to do it. So see you next time. And then if you have any questions, please do email or get in touch over social with us. Thank you so much. Bye.